Sarah receives a text message at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. A coworker needs a report finished by morning. She is exhausted and her eyes are burning. Without thinking, she types a short reply, "I will have it for you." Sarah does not feel happy about this choice. In fact, she feels a heavy, cold weight settling deep inside her chest. Yet, her hands move across the keyboard with a strange, robotic precision. She has no choice but to complete the task. This is the hidden mechanism of utility-based attachment. Her brain has decided that being useful is the only way to stay safe. The group sees Sarah as the anchor. They call her the rock. They depend on her because she never says the word no. But beneath the surface, Sarah is disappearing. Every time she says yes, a small piece of her own desire is quietly erased. Her brain treats other people's needs as if they were life or death emergencies. It ignores her own hunger, her own sleep, and her peace. This is not kindness. It is a biological survival script that views personal boundaries as dangerous threats to her place in the tribe. She has become a tool for others to use. Like a hammer or a wrench, her value is tied strictly to her function. When she is not working or helping, she feels a terrifying sense of emptiness. She does not know who she is without a burden. The individual becomes a ghost within their own life. They are physically present, but their internal will has been systematically replaced by external demands. How does a person learn to treat themselves as an instrument? The origin is found in the very first rooms of their lives. To understand this erosion, we must look at how the brain was first conditioned to equate performance with a sense of love. Little Leo brings home a perfect grade on his math test. His father, usually distracted, gives him a wide, rare, and warm smile. "You are the one I can always count on," his father says. Leo feels a sharp, addictive rush of pride and temporary safety. The next week, Leo sees his mother crying. He quietly cleans the entire kitchen. She hugs him and calls him her little helper. Leo's brain is recording these moments with intense focus. It is building a map of how to earn the right to exist. This is the birth of conditional worth. The brain learns that love is not a gift, but a payment for a specific service rendered. If Leo is helpful, the environment is calm and safe. If Leo has needs of his own, the environment becomes cold or even angry. The brain naturally chooses the path of safety. It begins to suppress Leo's natural impulses and replaces them with the hyper-awareness of others. He learns to scan faces for the slightest hint of disappointment. He learns to anticipate a problem before it even happens in reality. The neural pathways for self-perception begin to wither from lack of use. The pathways for other perception grow thick, fast, and incredibly powerful. By the time he is a teenager, Leo does not ask what he wants for dinner. He asks what will make everyone else happy. This is not a choice. It is a structural change in how his mind processes the world. He has become a mirror, not a person. He believes he is being a good kid. In reality, his brain is terrified of the rejection that would follow if he stopped being useful. The mechanism is now fully installed. The individual has learned to trade their soul for a seat at the table of the family. This conditioning creates a person who is perfectly designed for the needs of others, but completely useless to their own inner heart. The loop is set. Every time he is reliable, the world rewards him, and his true self drifts further into the dark shadows.
If this is already making sense to you, it means you're starting to notice patterns most people never see. Subscribe, and let's keep exploring how the mind really works. Now, this is where things start to get uncomfortable.
Sarah sits at her desk, staring at a notification on her screen. Her pulse quickens as a friend asks for a sudden, difficult favor. Before her conscious mind can even weigh the request, her fingers have already typed, "Sure, I can help." The message is sent instantly. Her brain has bypassed her executive function. The decision was made by ancient, deep-seated reflex that prioritizes the comfort of the other person. This is reflexive accommodating. The neural pathways are so well worn that the yes occurs before the internal no can even form. She feels a wave of resentment, but it is quickly buried under a thick layer of automated, polite, and very familiar social anxiety. The mechanism predicts that a refusal would lead to a catastrophic loss of status. To her brain, Saying no feels like physical death. She moves through her day like a servant to 1,000 masters. Every request from the world is in command she must obey. Her awareness is a passenger in a car driven by the needs of everyone else. She watches herself agree to things she truly hates. By the time she realizes she is overextended, she has already committed her entire weekend to tasks that do not belong to her. The automation is so complete that she often forgets she even had a choice. The choice is a ghost in her mechanical life. She has become a high-functioning biological machine. Her primary purpose is to smooth over the friction in the lives of the people around her. This efficiency is praised by her boss and her family. They do not see the hollow shell that is operating the heavy machinery. The individual is trapped in a loop of constant output. The self has been pushed into a small corner of the mind to make room. This is how the reliability trap functions. It runs on a script of fear that has been polished until it looks like a virtue. The brain maintains the state because it fears the vacuum that would remain if the useful part of the person ever stopped working. A man named Mark spends his Saturday fixing his neighbor's fence. He is tired, but the neighbor's effusive thanks provide a sudden, warm glow. His brain receives a massive hit of dopamine. For a brief moment, he feels essential, powerful, and deeply rooted in his social community. This is the utility reward. The brain maintains the pattern because being needed provides a consistent, predictable sense of artificial and external meaning. If he is not fixing, solving, or carrying, Mark does not know how to regulate his own sense of value or his internal peace. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves. The brain views the reliable one as a safe social rank. It is a position that is rarely attacked and almost always socially protected. By becoming indispensable, the individual creates a world where they can never be truly discarded. It is a strategy of social insurance. The amygdala, which scans for threats, stays quiet as long as the person is performing. The performance acts as a shield against abandonment. The payoff is a sense of being the adult in the room. This false maturity hides the reality that the person is actually terrified. The brain values this trait. It gives up the complexity of a real personality for the simplicity of a singular, functional, and useful role. However, this maintenance requires the person to stay in a state of high alert. They can never rest because their value is active. The moment they stop producing, the dopamine drops and the old, cold fear of being useless returns with the terrifying and sharp intensity. The individual is addicted to the thank you. They are a slave to the relief they feel when they have saved someone else's day. This maintenance ensures that the self never develops. The brain treats the self as a distraction from the more important work of service. The mechanism is now a closed system. It produces its own reward while simultaneously ensuring that the individual can never truly feel whole. A woman named Elena stands at a wedding, holding 3 different coats and a bouquet that does not belong to her. Someone asks her why she is carrying everything. Elena laughs and says, "Oh, you know me, I am the one who handles things." She feels a sudden, sharp spike of pride. She has successfully merged her entire existence with the role of the universal caretaker. The group reinforces this daily. They stop asking if she is tired. They simply assume she is the person who can endure anything. Her brain has now solidified this role. She no longer has a self that exists outside of what she provides to other people. This role solidification provides a stable, predictable way to interact with the world. She knows exactly who she is as long as others are needy. The social reinforcement is absolute. People praise her for her strength, which confirms her belief that her only value is her endurance. She begins to seek out people who are broken or disorganized. Her brain needs their chaos to prove that she is still necessary. The mechanism is now a permanent character trait. She views any moment of rest as a failure of her core and true nature. She prides herself on being the strong one. She believes her resilience is a gift, while it is actually a very tight cage. This identity is a prison built from the praise of others. It prevents her from ever being the one who needs a hand. The brain protects this identity at all costs. To be weak would be to lose the only thing that makes her feel visible. She becomes the reliable ghost in the room. She is thanked by everyone, but she is never actually seen for who she is. The solidification is complete. The individual is now a monument to the needs of others, and the person inside has been forgotten. When a reliable person walks into a messy kitchen, they do not see a room. They see a series of urgent, loud demands. When they look at a friend, they do not see a companion. They see a list of potential problems that might require their intervention. Their reality is filtered through hyper-vigilant responsibility. They scan the environment for any sign of friction and move to erase it immediately. They believe they are being helpful. In reality, they are seeing a version of the world where they are always the only solution. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves. The brain now automatically devalues any information that suggests the person can simply sit still and do absolutely nothing at all. This creates a world that is exhausting. There are no safe spaces, because every space contains a task that is waiting to be done. The individual becomes a servant to their own eyes. They cannot look away from a problem until they have attempted to fix it. They miss the subtext of their own exhaustion. They misinterpret their body's cry for rest as a sign of laziness or a failure. The filter is so thick that it changes the physical sensations of the body. They feel tight and on even during a vacation. This perception is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because they always fix everything, the people around them eventually stop trying to fix anything themselves. They are trapped in a reality of their own making. It is a reality where they are perpetually burdened by everyone's heavy weight. The mechanism has won. It has successfully created a world where the individual is indispensable, but also entirely and profoundly depleted. The final result is a life lived in service to a ghost. The person has disappeared, leaving only the reliability behind to finish. A man named David sits at a dinner table and realizes he has been holding his breath while his sister complains about her car. He recognizes the familiar itch in his palms to reach for his phone and find a mechanic for her immediately. He stops. For the first time, he notices the heavy, dull ache in his shoulders that accompanies every selfless act of his life. He recognizes the mechanism of compulsive utility. He sees that his brain is trying to buy his safety with his labor. The awareness does not make him feel free or happy. It simply makes the act of helping feel like a heavy burden. He watches his sister and realizes that her problem is not his emergency. It is a biological choice his mind made years ago. This perspective shift is quiet and deeply unsettling. It does not resolve the conflict, but it strips the hero of his glory. He sees his reliability as a cage built from the praise of others. He understands that he is the one holding the bars. The awareness allows him to see the need in the room without immediately needing to sacrifice his own peace to solve it. He is still sitting at the table. However, he is no longer convinced that his value is tied to the wrench in his hand. He recognizes that his kindness is just a specialized form of fear. It is a way to avoid rejection by being useful. This change is not a fix. It is a realization that the role he plays is a mask, though it remains his face. He feels the weight of his own history. He sees how many versions of himself he has quietly killed to stay the rock. The awareness creates a gap between the request and the response. He can feel the yes forming, but he chooses to wait. He is a witness to his own disappearance. The self is still buried, but he finally knows the depth of the grave he dug. Monday morning arrives. The office is full of people who have saved their most difficult and boring problems specifically for Sarah's desk. She sits down. She hears the familiar sound of her name being called with that specific tone of helpless, needy, and expectant dependence. Her brain performs a routine scan of the room. It identifies the tasks, recognizes the social pressure, and executes the standard compliance protocol. She feels the internal click. She does not close her door. She does not say she is busy. She opens the first file. The loop continues despite her new understanding. She still feels the reflexive urge to save the day and to be the anchor. She realizes that knowing about the mechanism does not stop the mechanism from running its automated scripts in the back of her mind. Her brain still views no as a high-stakes gamble with a certain outcome of abandonment. It still prefers the sure thing of service. She goes to take a break, but her mind quickly generates 3 reasons why she is the only one who can do this. She stays in her chair. The reliability has won again, not through a grand battle, but through a series of tiny, automated choices. The quiet loop is self-sustaining. It uses the exhaustion it creates as proof that the world would fall apart without her constant work. She is aware of the irony. She is exhausted because she is reliable, and she is reliable because she is so terrified of rest. The mechanism is like a heartbeat. It pulses in the background of every thought, every look, and every single word she chooses. She watches herself play the part of the hero in a meeting the next afternoon. She hears her own voice sounding tired. She cannot stop the performance. The role is too well rehearsed, and the costume has become a second skin that she cannot easily remove. The loop ensures that she remains a tool for life. She is an expert on everyone's needs, but she never touches her own. The individual stands in the quiet of their own home, finally alone after a day of being everything to everyone else. They look into the mirror and try to find a trace of a person who exists independently of a task or a favor. They see a face that is expertly composed, a mask of chronic reliability that has become indistinguishable from the skin beneath it. The mirror does not show a hero. It shows a hollowed-out vessel that has been filled to the brim with the expectations of others. They realize that their strength is actually a profound form of disappearance. They have become so dependable that they have ceased to be human. By never failing, they have ensured they are never truly known. By always saving, they have ensured they are never actually held by anyone. The mirror reveals the ultimate cost of the utility script. The individual is not a pillar. They are a bridge that everyone walks across. They recognize that they have spent their life avoiding the burden of their own identity by carrying the heavy weight of the world. The reflection is startling. It shows a person who is perfectly functional, yet entirely absent from the center of their own lived experience. They see the anchor for what it truly is, a desperate child who learned that being needed was the only way to be loved. This confrontation offers no relief. It only offers the cold, clinical reality of a self that has been traded for a reputation of stability. The mirror shows a person who is the first call for every emergency, but the last person to know what they actually want. The insight is heavy. It sits in the chest like lead. They are the architect, the builder, and the sole inhabitant of this useful cage. They turn away from the reflection, but the image of the functional self stays burned into their mind like a permanent, haunting afterimage. The mechanism of the reliable one is now fully exposed. It is a sophisticated, automated system of survival that eventually replaces the core self. It begins as a search for safety, evolves into a rewarding social status, and finally hardens into a permanent and inescapable identity of service. The reliable person is not a saint. They are an individual whose internal machinery has been hijacked by the fear of being seen as useless. They live in a world where the capacity for self-existence has been eroded by 1,000 daily acts of reflexive and automated compliance. This script is not a call to change. It is an exposure of the quiet, grinding gears that are currently consuming your life for others. The cage is real. The filters are active. The utility-based attachment is running in the background of your mind at this very second. You will walk into your next interaction and feel the urge to agree, to fix, or to carry the weight of another person. You will see the mechanism start its work. You will feel the safety of the yes. You will recognize the role as it settles. Understanding the disappearance does not stop the erosion. It only allows you to see the shape of the hole where you used to be. The self is not gone, but it is buried beneath layers of other people's needs and years of carefully curated and defensive helpfulness. If you value these deep exposures into the hidden systems of human behavior, consider subscribing to PsyHow for more examinations of the unseen. We do not offer advice. We do not offer a way out. We only offer the clarity that comes from seeing the heavy machinery. The loop remains. The anchor is heavy. The world continues to ask, and you continue to answer with the voice of a ghost.